Hello my gorgeous makeup loving friends, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Teresa. I got the UOMA Make It Black collection, so the UOMA Beauty. It includes this eyeshadow palette and 4 lipsticks. Now all of the proceeds, not the profits, are going to various organisations in the Make It Black Foundation. So it's all going towards like startup businesses for POC communities, which I'm like, yes, very exciting. The palette is quite neutral and it looks like this. Not normally my style, but I was like, screw it, let's give it a go. So if you want to see some swatches, a tutorial, a review, and me trying on each of these 4 lipsticks, then guess what? This is the video for you. Do please keep on watching. Oh my god, it is oppressively hot right now. Like I am just sweating by the simple act of sitting, which actually isn't that unusual. I'm very, very unfit. But we're going to try and do some swatches with this new UOMA Beauty palette, and let's just pray that they don't just slide off of my slippy slidey face. Let's give it a go. So right there, that's all of the mattes. You know, that's exactly what we would expect from them, because they did like the half matte and then the half duochrome. So let's check out the duochrome now. And I mean, on the fingers, they look very special, particularly this one. You can really see. So let's give it a go. So for me, even when looking at the palette, I feel like the most interesting bit is like the duochromes, okay? Now, they're always very, very difficult to show off like in a setting like this. So sometimes I find using a mirror is helpful to give you an idea. So I'm going to do that now. So this kind of gives you a better idea of the shifts of those kind of colours. Like the green has a bluey shift. There's another one that has more of an orange shift. This has like an orangey yellow shift. This is very kind of goldy toned if you look at it in the correct light. And this has like elements of grey in it. But yes, that's it. Forgive my spotty, hot and bothered skin. I'm gonna go and submerge my face in like ice water. It is hell right now. She said it's only like 26 degrees. But 26 degrees in Ireland is horrible, I believe is the correct term. Anyways, I'm gonna feck off now, and you'll see the eye look next. I don't feel like I'm being dramatic when I say it's about 50 million degrees here. So a certain amount of this may get sweated off in the process. But fuck it, let's get into it. So I'm starting off with a blank canvas E10, and I'm going into the shade Nelson, which is a very pale shade. It's going to be really good for like blending out darker shades on quite a light skin tone. And I'm just popping that just along the inside of the eye and up along the brow and just out here. Nothing major. I have used this brush obviously for the other eye, but I have put it through the colour switch, so we're okay. Now you might notice this isn't immediately very pigmented, and like for me, obviously I love pigment, but I think this might have been a very deliberate kind of idea from UOMA Beauty. And the reason why I think that is, for a lot of people, going into these sort of shades can be a little bit intimidating, and if you can kind of build out of which these colours are buildable, I think it's less kind of scary for people. And I do think they were very smart with this colour story to kind of get as many people to buy this sort of thing, particularly when it's going towards charities. So I'm here for it. But you can see it does like blend, it does build up. So you can work with it to kind of get it where you want it to be. So I'm not against that. I think particularly that bottom row is very much wearable everyday makeup, and I think that was very, very smart on their part. I'm taking this same brush again, and now I'm going into Dubois. Now this one's a bit more pigmented, so you want to go kind of gently at this. Now what I do like is it doesn't patch up. You know how some like darker shades, you'll just find that once you deposit them, they don't want to move. Not the case with this one, thankfully. So I didn't have any like major issues with blending this particular one out. So you can see like already you kind of have the basis of a very neutral, everyday kind of eyeshadow palette. If neutral looks are your everyday thing, they aren't for me. So I'm very much going out of my kind of comfort zone using these sort of things, but fuck it. The theme for tonight as well on R&R is go sports game, and I'm like, well, if kind of neutral brown shades along with greens doesn't scream sport, then I don't know what does. But to be fair, I am horrifically clumsy and never took to team sports. So there you go. I am now taking a Sigma E36 and I'm going into the shade Fella. Now you're going to notice this is not the most pigmented black. Like it's not going to replace the black from the Meet Me in the Underworld as my favourite, or I'm sure like others love Noir from ABH. But I think this is a decent black for people who are scared of black, because you can see it doesn't give you a massive amount of pigmentation and it does kind of blend out. Not to a grey, but kind of somewhat approaching that. So it is buildable though, I will say. And I did find like when I did pack it on, I did eventually get to where I wanted to with that. But this is not your like wabam part of the palette, in my opinion. Overall, this is blended relatively okay, but obviously I still have to do some additional work on this. What I like is that the shadow doesn't skip on my eye. I am 32, so my eyelid is a little bit textured. There are kind of like some wrinkles, some little forbidden pockets, but I'm liking that it doesn't seem to have skipped over any of those folds. So for me, hurrah, I like that. But I'm going back in with that blank canvas brush and I'm going into the shade Dubois. And I've taken a very small amount of that and I'm just kind of packing that on top of where Fella was, just to blend the two of them together. Like I said, I think what's nice about this is for people who aren't very, very confident with their makeup is it doesn't give you a huge amount and it does blend pretty well, so you don't have to worry too much about that. And then same brush again, and I'm going into the shade Nelson just to try and take down the harshness of it. And I will say, kind of wish in this instance there was a little bit more pigmentation so it could tone it down. I mean, I know I have palettes where if I go in with a lighter colour, it will help to kind of tone down the oomphness of it. So in those instances, kind of not having the whack of pigmentation does make it a little bit trickier to use, just in those instances. But I suppose it depends as to how you are layering on your makeup and how you're applying it. Like, are you going from light to dark? I'm now taking this Cash Beauty liner brush and I'm going into Nkrumah. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Very, very sorry if I'm not. Because obviously all of the shade names are kind of linking in with POCs who have done an awful lot for the cause. Like obviously we're looking at things like Nelson for Nelson Mandela, and I believe there's Malcolm in there for Malcolm X. So it's quite cool. I like that aspect of things. So I'm just popping that in there look, this is just what I like to do. I like to take like a shimmer, pop it onto the inside of the eye. I am not explaining myself any further than that. And then I'm taking a petite fan brush and I'm going back into the same shade again, and I'm just popping that up at the brow bone, you know? Because that's just what I do. I love that this almost makes it look like super glistening, sweaty. Like, yeah, I think that's nice. But I'm going to go and cut the crease and we'll come back and do the rest of this. I need you to understand that I'm being very lazy right now because I couldn't be asked to take off the concealer because I was like, fuck it, I'm just putting black on top of this and then the duochromes. So let's get into it. So now I'm using the Zoeva 238 and I'm going into the shade Fella. Now I think the inclusion of a black here makes a huge amount of sense, particularly when you're looking at a palette that includes like multi-chromes and duochromes, because having that black base is a little bit easier to work from. However, I feel like this lacks pigment. Like you can build it up, like I said, but for me, I just like something a little bit more wabam for this. But as you can see, it does build up. I'm just being very, very pernickety, you know, because I'm used to just getting the black straight on. But like I said, I think this is going to be really good for people who are like nervous and are like, oh no, I'm so frightened of black. I don't want to use it in a look in case it does something. I don't know what they think the black would do, but like, I mean, it's there, it's showing up, it's fine. I'm quite happy with that. There we go. Now I look like Robert Pattinson's Batman. You know the drill. I'm just going to put on a little bit of glitter glue on kind of the inner third of the eye, just because I find that these duochromes, etc., perform a little bit better, and let's give it the best possible chance. Oh, I put a lot on. That's on me, both metaphorically and literally. Now I'm using the Zoeva 238, a separate one, and I'm going into the shade Pack. Now what's interesting about this is it's a green shifting into like a red, which is kind of difficult to get on camera. I might go outside at some point so you can see all of this in the natural light. We'll see. But as you can see, very, very simple. I'm just popping it on there, and look at how quickly and easily it turns up. I think this part is where the palette really, really shines, is in these shades. And for me, that's very exciting because UOMA have never actually really done these sort of shades before that I can recall anyways. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty darn good. I'm not having to go in with like my silicone sponge thingy. I'm just able to apply it with this brush, and gotta say, pretty impressed with how that's coming off. I think that looks really nice. And I'm again just taking some glitter glue and just popping it over the rest of where that black is, because that's where I'm going to be putting another shade of the duochrome glittery loveliness. And now another Zoeva 238, and I'm going into the shade King. And this is quite a nice one. It is a shift from like a deep like pine green to quite a sapphire-y blue. I think that's quite interesting. And again with this one, it applies really, really easily. Like there's no major issue with it. I'm loving the way these are turning up onto the eyelid. Like, oh, this is a lazy bee's dream. Like, again, I think this is such a nice introduction for people who have like been seeing duochromes, are a little bit kind of nervous, a little bit intimidated. I think this was a really good selection for UOMA on this. I think they did just knock it out of the park in terms of the way they put all of this together and the way that all of this performs. It's just so nice and simple. I'm taking this blank canvas E10 and I'm going between those two shades, Pack and King, and I am just going to attempt to blend those a little bit. But I'll be honest with you, they can emerge so well that there's very little that I have to do there, which for me, oh, hurrah. Now I'm taking my Zoeva 225 and I'm going back into the shade Fella. And I'm sure you'll be shocked, appalled even, that I'm putting it on the outer corner. Because if you've watched me for a while, you will know that's just the shit that I do. I'm so, like incredibly predictable. I just keep doing the same thing over and over again. But I think it's just, I know what suits my, like, face and what suits my eyes. So yeah, I will do the same sort of patterns over and over again. Why? Because they look nice and I like them and I enjoy them. So there you go. But you can see getting a nice blend in there. Like if you get the correct brushes, you can get a nice amount of pigment on this. So I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm taking a blank canvas E10 and I'm going into the shade Dubois. And I'm just kind of popping that up there and I'm attempting to kind of mesh it in with the shade King, that lovely sort of duochromy shade in there as well, just to make it a little bit gentle. Now I will end up going into that lighter shade Nelson that we dealt with before, but don't worry, we'll do that in time. I just need to chill out and understand that, as Ronan Keating once said, life is indeed a roller coaster and we just gotta ride it. For my American friends, you probably have no idea what I mean. Don't look it up. It's a terrible, terrible song. And look, I'm doing as I said, I'm taking the same brush again and I'm going into the shade Nelson. And just popping that up there. My hair is going everywhere. I have been clipping back my fringe quite a bit these days because for those of you who have a fringe, or as my lovely American counterparts call it, bangs, it does make its own little ecosystem. You know, you're like, why is this like 5 degrees hotter than the rest of my body? So when it's already like disgustingly clammily warm, I don't want to deal with any of that, you know? And now I'm taking my Melt Meshla brush, which obviously I just use all the time, and I'm going back into the shade King. And I've only taken a slight amount of that, and I'm just kind of gently swooshing it. And now back and forth, sis. I know. Such amazing detail and grace. Who would have thought it? I'm taking this away the 225 and I'm going back into the shade Fella. And I'm just adding a little bit further there, just in an attempt, keyword attempt, to get the two eyes to match. But that does feel like a fool's errand when it comes to my makeup. And as you can see, I've managed to put on the sticker. It was difficult. I don't know, I don't have matching eyes. So, yeah, symmetry. It's not one for me. I'm just taking this Morphe brush and all I'm doing is just kind of going into the shade Kalasi. Again, very, very sorry if I'm pronouncing the names incorrectly. And all I'm doing is just kind of popping it in there. So there's more of like a gentle transition to where the holographic sticker is. And again, it was tricky to place and get it to go just the way I wanted it to. But sure, look. Makeup, it all washes off. So that is it. I mean, it was super, super simple. I'm going to feck off now, but we will come back to try the lipsticks. 4 different shades, 2 neutrals, 1 red and 1 black. So exciting. I'm going to feck off, finish the rest of my face, and we'll do that. Okay, so let's try some of the lipsticks. I'm going to start off first by going from the lightest to obviously the darkest, which is the black. So I'm starting off first with the shade Eartha, and it looks like this. It's quite biscuity, cool toned. Now I'm not putting any lip liner down because this is just a very, very quick application. So let's see. It's a nice heavy kind of a component. I like that. The feel of that lipstick is very, very creamy. I like the way that that feels. Okay, this is a yes for me. So this is the first of the shades, Eartha. So the next shade that we're looking at is the shade Maya, which might actually be lighter in shade than Eartha. But again, it's quite kind of pinky toned, a little bit kind of, I think, undertones of mauve. So let's give this one a go. Okay, so this one, Maya, is pretty much like my nude. It is my neutral shade. It is the shade of my lips, which I think is kind of nice because obviously you lose a certain amount of that when you're putting on foundation, concealer, etc. I think this is quite interesting. I like this. Again, very, very comfortable feel of a formula. I like that because, you know, it's all about the sensory stuff. But this is the shade Maya. Lipstick number 3 is Ruby, which obviously is a red. It would have been weird if they called their lipstick Ruby and not have it be a red. Now this is quite kind of like a classic red. It's a little bit blue toned. Those are the sort of reds that I have a tendency to go towards. So let's try this one out. Again, I'm a lazy bee. I'm not putting on any lip liner. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, this is a very, very classic red. There's something kind of like almost like that Marilyn Monroe sort of a vibe of a red. I like this. I think that's really, really nice. Look, you know me, I'm a hoe for a red. Can't help it. I don't think I've ever met a red lipstick that I don't enjoy on at least some level, whether it's the, you know, the hue or whatever. But this is the shade Ruby, and I gotta say, quite like it. Again, we have our comfortable formula. Feels nice, glides on really, really nicely. So yeah, this is Ruby. You can see the shade Ruby did slightly stain my lips, but you know, that's fine. I'm okay with that. The very last lipstick that we're looking at is the shade Elaine, which I find funny because I have a friend called Elaine and she is a goth and I feel like she would enjoy this. This is quite a nice black bullet lipstick. I mean, I don't think I have any, no, I definitely don't have any black bullet lipsticks, so this will be a first, and I gotta say, kind of intrigued to see how this is gonna go, because sometimes you can just get kind of like patchy blacks. So let's see how this one operates. Okay, it's not bad for a black bullet. Like, I mean, normally they're really, really hard to formulate. They end up being like a little bit patchy that you can see the lip underneath. I think I can see my lip ever so slightly underneath, but I reckon like with the appropriate lip liners, this could end up working pretty well. Again, very, very, very comfortable. I quite like that. And like I said, this is the shade Elaine. So this is the finished look. Let's zoom in on the eyes so you can see what they look like. I mean, it's quite a simple look. Yes, I brought in a holographic sticker. Don't you judge me. And it always looks a bit different when I take my glasses off. You know, it just adds to the strangeness. But I think there's really lovely tones in this. Now, I'm going to bring you outside so you can see what these look like out in the natural light, because there are shifts to this that I don't think are going to come up with the lights that I have in this teeny tiny little box room. So frolic outside with me, my friends. Okay, so you can kind of see it now in natural light, and it still isn't really giving the exact flip. But you can see how all of this looks together in the reality outside of the bright, bright lights. I like it. Yeah. So let's discuss the collection. I'm going to start by talking about the palette. I was actually pretty darn impressed by this. It isn't my normal kind of thing, but I think this is going to be really user-friendly for anyone that's a bit like nervous of like strong pigments, and I really liked the duochromes. I need UOMA to do more of those. I was super impressed, and these performed really nicely. I didn't have any issue in them. Like I said, they're not very pigmented, but they are buildable, so for that I would actually like really quite recommend this. And I think this was quite a savvy little release for them, considering, you know, neutral is essentially a safe bet. Bringing in the duochromes is a smart sort of a move, and considering that they're putting all of the proceeds towards charity, I think this was a very calculated decision on their part to make sure that as much went to like good organizations as possible. So for me, I think this is definitely a win. If you like this sort of a color story, if this kind of appeals to you, then frankly, I think you're really going to enjoy it. You can kind of see the sort of flip in the shades there. Very tricky to capture on camera, but you can see it in reality when there are no cameras around. It's sort of like, you know, the tooth fairy in that respect. So for that, I would actually give this like an 8.5 out of 10. I think this is quite a nice neutral palette, and it's not very bad for the price. Now moving on to the lipsticks. I think there was a nice kind of a range of shades. Obviously you had two neutrals, a red and a black, and depending upon, you know, your specific temperament, you're going to find something that you like there. You know me, I love red. That's the one that I kind of gravitate towards, but I do think that the neutrals like this shade Eartha are absolutely beautiful as well. When it comes to the formula, they are so nice. Very comfortable, very creamy, quite hydrating. So this is one of those, it looks kind of matte, but it isn't a matte formula, which is quite unusual. It feels more like a satin sort of a formula, but gives you the look of a matte, which honestly I'm here for. I don't know about you, but finding matte bullet lipsticks that are really drying, so bloody common. But I really like these. I would actually say, you know, if you're looking for a nice bullet lipstick, pick these up. Pick one or two or whatever shades that you like. I can very confidently recommend these. I would give them a 10 out of 10. Really enjoy them. Very, very comfortable formula. But my friends, that is it. That is the end of the video. We've gone through the whole collection. I'm an idiot. I buy things that I don't need, but I am getting better at that, one might hope. But anyways, that is it. Do please like, comment and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell so you can see more videos, and do please share, because sharing is caring, unless of course it's an STD, in which case, you know, wrap it up, don't be gross. That is it. That is the end of the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.